Our next reader is Gregory A. Wilson. He's currently an associate professor of English at St. John's University in New York City, where he teaches creative writing and fantasy fiction along with various other courses in literature. He has won an award for National Playwriting Contest, and Gail Singage published his first novel, a work of fantasy entitled The Third Sign, which he has for sale here tonight for $15, and they will be autographed. And that was published in the summer of 2009. He regularly reads from his work at conferences across the country and is a member of Codex, the Writers' Symposium, Backspace, and several other author groups on and offline. With fellow speculative fiction writer, author, Brad Bollier, he co-hosts the podcast Speculate, the podcast for writers, readers, and fans at www.speculatesf.com. Please welcome Gregory Wilson.
Yeah, that's fine. Thanks, Bill. So I'm going to read a section from the prologue, actually, for a work that is, I guess, still technically in progress. It's finished, but I've got some revision to do, and then I'm starting to shop around as we speak. It's a book called Icarus, and I won't try to describe it. I'll just read some things. On the day that Icky fell into the volcano, making one hell of a racket when he landed, I didn't know then that he always made entrances like that, and that was the first I laid eyes on the kid. I was out digging for flame petals at Rig. Like usual, Rig was belly aching about having to do work, and like usual, I was telling him to shove it. How are we going to make it if we don't have something to sell, I says, and he gives me those big eyes of his and droops his ears down like always when I yell at him. No, I'm not going to hear at you, I says. You don't do all that much work, you know. What if I treated you like other people treat their solars? And he pretends not to hear me, you know, snuffing around and scratching his ear, waving those two tails like he's got an itch he can't scratch. I could, you know, I says. I could keep you caged up for as long as I want, and no one would give a hoot. There's lots that think solars ought to be treated like pests, you know, like a flickerbrad or something. And of course he looks up at me and starts howling, you know, so sensitive, that friggin' thing, which is pretty funny for something that stands about as tall as I do. Which, okay, it ain't very tall, but still. Yeah, never mind that, I says. I'll just think about it, you know? Maybe a nice cage, some magister ice around it or something. And then Rig just loses it, you know, just starts a-crying and howling and carrying on, and I starts thinking about him waking some flame demon or something, and then wouldn't we be set? All right, I says finally, quit the funeral, I won't cage you. But you gotta do your work, or I won't be able to buy a cage, or keep the house. You gotta do the work. And he jumps up and starts running around, you know, trying to jump on me and practically knocking me into the lava flow. Yeah, enough, I says, let's just get to it. And off he goes like a flickerbrad flying away from a pool, bounding ahead of me and sniffing like he's got something stuck up his nose. Rig's a pain sometimes, but I gotta say there ain't no better solar west of the hole, not when it comes to finding flame petals. They grow below the ground where the flow still moves a bit, and it's way too hot for most of us grounders to look. For a solar, well, you could throw them in fresh lava and they'd barely feel it. But a lot of them can't really smell worth a damn, and a lot of the rest are too wild to use. And that's why folks tend to stay away from it. You catch one side of those tails flying and the red fur bristling and those teeth and those crazy sideways eyes, and most just head the other way. I can't say as I blame them, really. Rig's wild too, I guess, but only because he don't want to listen sometimes. But he's not dangerous, or at least he's not to me. He's a big baby, to tell you the truth. But he can smell all right. I've seen him sniff out a pellar from half a mile away when most solars would have been running in circles, even though he tried to eat it when he found it, like usual. I told him 100 times not to eat those things. They don't show the spikes till after they're swallowed, but he won't listen, and then I gotta hear him howling for 3 Santa-cycles till he finishes digesting. He doesn't have the biggest brains in the ball for sure, but still, he can find those flame petals when he's got a mind to. On his best time, I've seen him find 10, and that'll go a ways down here. But for a while, we've been coming up pretty light. 2, 3, maybe 4 on a good solar cycle, and I was starting to get worried. I got bills to pay, you know? Rick took us over the West Plains a good way, sniffing and scratching the ground, and a couple times I thought we had something. He'd stop, smell, dig a bit. But each time he only got down a bit into the dirt and then was off again after the next scent. No worries. Even in the best digs, you can get a couple of false starts. But nearly a full Santa cycle went by, and nothing, not even a broken flame petal, something I could maybe have tried to plant and get something out of. Finally, Rick sat down panting, and I didn't blame him. I was tired as a magman myself, and I couldn't have gone much farther. So I plopped myself down on a rock and waited, taking a swig from the canteen now and again as I looked about, while Rig rolled around and basically made a fool of himself. We'd come a lot farther than even I thought before, almost near in the Central Plains, and this wasn't territory I knew too well, except to be careful of it. You hear stories, tales of folks vanishing without a trace. Crazy tales for crazy people, I always say, but still, you don't live long down here without knowing how to keep your eyes open and your ears near the ground much as you can. Mountains rose up to the north, up where some say the fur bards live, if you still think they're living like some fools do, but no offense meant if you're one of them. And to the south, the lava pools were the salamander kings. To the east, I could make out the stretch of jagged rock that covers the Central Plains, and far in the distance, farther than I could see, were the East Plains, farther than I'd ever been to. And beyond them was the whole, leastways if I remember what my dad told me when I was just old enough to be foolish. Don't go that far, son, he used to say. You don't go any farther than you need to go by. Stay in the places you know and you'll never be caught napping. And I never was. Well, leastways not until I met Icky. No, I stayed in the West where the folks are, well, they ain't decent exactly, but at least you know the kind of damn fools they are anyway. Of course, but up to my dad, I wouldn't have been doing what I was doing to begin with. He was a prospector too. He taught me most everything I knew, but he hated every cycle of it. What he really loved doing was crafting. He cranked out gadgets and gizmos like they was going out of style, which it turns out they usually were by the time he made them. But nothing got my pop down. Made some fire crystal goggles no one wanted, melted them down and turned them into windows to keep the heat down inside. No one wanted those either. Broke them into bits, rounded off the sharp spots, and used them to cover flame pedal chutes. I used to think nothing bad had ever happened to my dad. He was pretty tall for a grounder, nearly 5 feet, and I mostly remember looking up at him when he was talking to me. I wanted to be just like him, even though he told me not to, that there wasn't anything about prospecting that was worth it. And I told him I understood, but he knew I was lying, and he never made me promise anything different. Then he was gone, and what was I supposed to do but try to live like him, except the crafting, which I ain't too good at, actually. Folks tell me I look kind of like my dad, except shorter. Same red skin, same red hair and eyes. But truth be told, I'm nothing like him. People liked him. Best I can do is keep my head down and keep out of the way. Maybe I was too tired, or maybe I was too busy living in some damn full memory, but either way I must not have been paying attention, because all of a sudden Rig sets to growling and yelping and nearly scares me into falling off my rock. And it might have been better to fall anyway, because when I looks up, what should I see but the last thing I would have expected? 7 feet tall, red horns, tail, spiky fur, teeth that don't fit proper inside the mouth. Yep, it was a sure enough flame demon, and there he was right in front of us, gnashing his teeth and eyes so wide they could have dropped outside his head. Maybe he was trying to decide which one of us to eat first, or maybe he was just having fun, but anyways, he didn't move at first. He just looked at us with that crooked smile of his. Frankly, I just about gave it up there and spent most of my last cycles alive cursing myself for being so stupid. First of all, you almost never see demons this far west, but like I said, I didn't know this territory too well, and things had been kind of strange lately. And if we hadn't been so desperate for a couple of lousy flame pedals, we wouldn't have been out so far from home anyways. And I should have been paying closer attention. But now he was in it for school, it's for sure, and I just felt bad for Rig mostly. I mean, me, I'm just a washed-up prospector, but he don't know any better, and if it wasn't for me, maybe he'd be running around free somewhere instead of getting eaten alive. And wouldn't you know it, the damn fool stepped in front of me growling, as if he could do anything against the flame demon. I mean, solars aren't small, they can defend themselves, but against the flame demon, well, really. Come on now, he says in a low voice, holding my search stick like a fool while the demon steps forward. Come on, you don't want another Rig here. You let him go and deal with me. I got what you want anyways. And I held up my stick and got ready to do some damn foolish thing like yell and charge or something like that. But just then I thought I heard a sound above us, kind of whistling, and I took a step back. The demon raised his claw and got ready to swipe, but he never did. All of a sudden something hit him head on from above, some flurry of white and feathers, and down he goes in a heap while Rig and I jumps back. First I couldn't tell what happened, but then I saw the demon get to his feet, shaking his head and screaming murder, and I saw the other thing get up as well. Even now, I can't tell you what it was like to see that thing stand. Tall, thin, 2 arms, 2 legs, curly brown hair, white skin, and young. But that expression it had on its face, kind of serene, like it knew it was going to happen. That's what amazed me the most. That and what it had on its back, of course. Because that demon comes up swinging and screaming, and in it comes, and the other one just smiles, and all of a sudden I saw it unfold, these wings by Saul, wings, I tell you, white feathered wings, almost as wide as the body was tall, and out it stretches them. The demon hesitated and then roared again and came in, and the other thing, well, it just lifted its arms, you know, and all of a sudden those wings glowed blue, and blue light shot out all over the place, and I fell backwards near blinded. I heard this screech, and then a wail, and then a sigh, and then nothing at all. And when I looked up and I could see, there it all was, Rig on the ground, whimpering like a baby, some pile of ash that I think used to be a flame demon, and that other thing lying on the ground with his eyes closed, those huge wings folded beneath him. Entrances, I tell you. That kid knew how to make an entrance.